Hello and welcome to Enhanced Automotive Recruitment's video learning series. My name's Carl Swain and part one of our series is all about creating a professional CV. So, what is a CV? What is the purpose of a CV? Honestly, from my point of view, the CV is a tool. It's a key for you to landing an interview. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't know anybody out there that's sent in a CV to a company that has landed a job just by sending off the CV. You need to get face to face with either a recruiter or a hiring manager to then sell yourself in that interview. So don't think that your CV is the be all and end all. It's just that little thing you need to make sure you can go in and do what you do best, and that is talk about yourself and sell yourself. What makes a great CV? Well, a great CV is a professional CV. It's professionally laid out and professionally presented. Doesn't mean you have to go and spend loads of money getting somebody to do it for you. Most people are capable of creating a professional CV. Your CV needs to be readable. That may sound straightforward, but you will be surprised how many CVs we get through our office that have either got spelling mistakes or grammar errors that really shouldn't even be there. You've got spell checker. If you're creating your CV on a word processing program, then you've got a spell checker. It's part of most programs now. So if you see a word that comes up in red or sometimes underlined, that means you've spelt it wrong. So it's a good opportunity to change that and get it right. Use spell checker. It's free. It's built into your program, so there's no excuses. If you don't, all that's going to happen is your CV is going to end up in the bin. So don't waste your time, and please don't waste our time by sending in CVs that are just wrong. My advice would be check, and check again. Get it right. Get it right first time. Make your CV brief. Make it brief but informative. I really believe that you need to keep it to 1 to 2 pages. Anything more than that, and it's just overkill. It's just your message is gonna get lost, basically. Always make your CV relevant to the job you're going for. Some people might not agree with me, but I do think that makes a difference. If you're going for different roles and they're slightly different, just alter your CV slightly. Create a couple of different CVs just so to tailor it to each job. Avoid repeating yourself. Avoid repetition. Avoid going over the same old thing over and over again. We understand you could well have done the same job, but for just different companies. That's understandable. That goes on, but try and change each job. Try and divide each job and break up the roles and make the roles look slightly different each time you do it. That's going to show you're versatile. That's going to show that you didn't just go and do the same thing over and over and over again. You went in and each role you tried something different. You tried to do something a little bit different than you did before. That's going to make you get ahead of the competition. It's going to make you stand out from the crowd, because if I get 10 CVs and they've all got the same thing over and over again, that one that looks slightly different is going to grab my attention more than any others. You may be thinking, well, that's all well and good, but you've told me how to what the CV's for. You've told me what not to do, but what do I actually need to put on a CV? I've never created a CV before. We understand that there are people out there that have either been in the same job for a number of years and never had to bother creating a CV before, and there's people just starting out in their working life that have never had to create a CV before. Let me tell you from my point of view what I'm looking for when I read a CV, because obviously I'm doing this day in, day out. So what am I looking for? Well, starting at the top of your CV, there's some obvious important information to put on there, and there's some information that I think you should definitely leave off. At the top, obvious things like your name, your address, telephone number, and a professional email address. the last one's really important, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Leave off the following. Leave off marital status. That doesn't need to be on your CV. We can find that out later on. Leave off your date of birth. Age discrimination is against the law. It's a crime and not allowed. But probably best not to open yourself up to be, overlooked because of your date of birth. Now, age is irrelevant in my eyes and in the law's eyes. If you've got the skills and the experience, that's all that counts. Now, we can look at your CV, look at your past working experience, and we can see that you started working in 1975. Maybe you started work at 16. We can easily work out from that you're 54. That's not difficult. So do yourself a favour, leave your age out of the equation, and let's just concentrate on your skills and your experience. Next is your opportunity to blow me away, or blow a hiring manager away. Make us read something and go, wow. Underneath your personal details, and before we get onto your working history, write a single paragraph. Write a single paragraph that highlights something you've done in your career that you're proud of, that you want to show off, that really makes me think, wow, that is excellent, and that's going to make you stand out from the crowd. Remember the CVs that we're reading day in, day out. If they're all the same, it's going to get boring. Next should be your work experience. Moving down the page, so you've done your personal details, you've done your wow paragraph, you then move on to your working history, and your current role is always going to be at the top, and then moving down from there. So on there, you when you start your first your current role, we want to see your name in the company, the dates that you work there, the job title, and description. Once you've finished with your work experience, let's put on there your education, and then after you've put in your education and you've got a little bit of space left, think about things like, do you really feel that you should put hobbies and interests on there? I don't necessarily think that you do. I would only say put hobbies and interests on there if they're relevant to the role you're applying for. It might sound stupid, but you could be mad into something like, let's say, rugby, and the person who is looking to employ you hates rugby, loves football. It shouldn't make a difference to whether you get the job or not, but honestly, there are some weird people in this world, and you need to think about that on everything you do when you're applying for a job. So keep it relevant, and keep it so it matches up. Keep it so it matches up with the role. Remove or keep off some obvious information. Things like, I'm available for interview. Really? I think we understand that. You wouldn't be applying for the job if you're not actually available for an interview. So scrub that off. That's a waste of line. And also, don't put on there that you got references on request. If you've got working history, you're always going to have references. Once you've done all this, get a friend or a family member to have a read through your CV. Get them to have a look at it and make sure it's right. Then make any changes they feel are necessary. Another pair of eyes to read over your CV is essential when creating your CV, and that's only going to help you to get that right before you send it in to us. Now, LinkedIn is something we could talk about for quite a while, but for the purpose of today's video, having a LinkedIn profile is essential. If you don't have one, get one set up now. LinkedIn's free of charge, so get one set up. And the reason it's essential is because most recruiters and hiring managers will once they've got your CV, they're going to go out there and look for you on social media. They'll look for you on Facebook, on Twitter, but but first and foremost, they will look for you on LinkedIn. So what I will say is make sure that your profile closely matches your CV. Try and avoid any glaring differences, because if the two don't match, then questions will be asked, and you're not going to look honest if there's some massive differences between the two. So get your LinkedIn profile set up. It's definitely essential for any professional person in this day and age to have a good LinkedIn profile. We're going to move on to some do's and don'ts when creating that professional CV. There's some big do's and there's some even bigger don'ts. Remember, the whole purpose of this creating this CV is to land the interview. Other than that, nothing else matters. That's your whole purpose of making sure this is the best CV you can possibly create. So do number one. Do make your CV only 1 to 2 pages. We briefly touched on this earlier on in the video, but it's really important that you think about this. If you do any more than 1 to 2 pages, it's overkill. It's just too much information that's going on sheets of paper that you don't need to do. And what's going to end up happening is you're going to turn off the people that you need to turn on. So your hiring managers, your recruiters, if they're reading your CV and it's not got just the relevant information on there that they need to read, unfortunately, it may well end up in the bin. Keeping it all onto 1 to 2 pages is really going to help you. It's going to make sure most of your CV gets read. Now, number 2, important information at the top of the CV. Again, this is going over some of the things we've said before, but if you keep everything at the top of the CV, where you're only using 1 to 2 pages, if you've got your important information, then you've got your wow paragraph, having that all at the top of the CV grabs the attention of the people that are reading your CV, and it gets right to the point nice and early on. Number 3, use effective titles to get people to take notice. What do we mean by this? Well, instead of using a normal everyday title that says car sales executive or vehicle technician, create something a little bit different. Try and play around with the words that again will make you stand out differently to everybody else. So have a little think about how you can change it to suit you. Number 4, use numbers instead of words to add something to your job descriptions. It will help again make you stand out from the crowd. So what do I mean when I say numbers? Well, instead of saying something like, well, I cut overheads and we went over target on the budget, actually put numbers down. Actually put that you went £50,000 over target, or you cut overheads by £10,000. Actually put that down in numbers, so that will stand out over and above any words you can write on that. Number 5, bullet points. Bullet points are brilliant. Bullet points are it's human nature more than anything. It's not only recruiters or hiring managers, but human nature is if you see something that's got bullet points, your eyes are drawn to it quite instantly. So if on your description you put at the top what the job was, but then what you did in that role you break down into bullet points, it makes it easily readable, and it makes it a lot better for us to pick up on exactly what you've done in each part of that job. Just quickly, we can scan it and read it a lot better. Moving on to the don'ts. Now, for me, the don'ts will make or break your CV. If you carry on adding in things that I advise you not to do, you're going to end up finding yourself moving from top of the pile to the bottom of the bin. And that's the last place you really need to be. So, don't number one, don't put a photo on your CV. I'm not sure who said this was a good idea. You don't see that many of them nowadays, but I've had a couple, and I've had one come through with like a slogan on a T-shirt on the photo, and you just think, why are you even bothering with that? That first thing that does, it just gets binned straight away. It's just not professional at all. Avoid it at all costs. No photos, please. Number two, don't use any graphical or arty designs on your CV. There's some, if you go on Google and have a look, there's some brilliant CVs from graphic designers and or marketers, people like that. Now, if that's your line of work, brilliant. Then that's the type of CV you really want to be producing for the people that want to see that. But for my line of work, that's not really, plain white black writing is all we need. Number three, don't use your personal email address if it's not professional, or if it's got anything that's inappropriate on that email address. It's free and simple to create yourself a CV friendly email address that you can just put on your CVs and use for job applications. So only ever put that on your CV before you send one out. Number four, don't use any what I would call really information. You must know what I mean. Let's say you're a car salesman and in your description you put, I sell cars. Now that's going to get a really response. We can work that out. We're not silly. We can work that out ourselves. So keep the information relevant, but change it a little bit if you have to. If you need to say that you sold cars, great, but try and describe it in a slightly different way. Something again that will make you stand out from the next candidate. Number five, don't lie. Again, it's another one of these what you would probably think's an obvious thing to say, but it's amazing how many people will say things on their CV and later on it comes up and catches them out. It's not good for you, and it's not good for your future employers. If you put something on your CV, just make sure it's true, because you don't really want to find yourself in a role and within 3, 4, 5, 6 months you're having to find yourself another job because you lied on your CV. It's silly and really not worthwhile. It really isn't. Just don't open yourself up to some problems that you're going to regret later on. Right, number 6 is don't fill up your CV with irrelevant information. Again, we spoke about this a little bit earlier on in the video, but if you're going to keep your CV to 1 to 2 pages, you need to make sure that the information that you're putting on the CV is, again, relevant to the jobs that you're going for. So think about that before you start filling your CV with information that is, pointless and not relevant to that role. We could probably talk about some more do's and don'ts, but I think the main ones that I've covered are what I feel are important when creating that professional CV. Remembering all the time while you're watching this video and creating your CV that your CV is essentially just a tool. That's all it is. It's a document that you're going to send out. You're going to send it out to hiring managers, companies, recruitment agencies, people like that, to try and secure an interview. So by doing that, you need to make sure that you're giving yourself the confidence to say, right, when I send this CV out, that you can add, value to the role that you're applying for. Okay, so don't ruin your chances or any opportunities by sending the wrong document out. We said, don't put a photo on your CV. Don't use an unprofessional email address. Don't lie, and don't use any really information. when it comes to the do's, we say do keep it 1 to 2 pages long. Do put important information first, and do use effective titles. I'll just sort of end this by saying don't don't hold yourself back by ruining what is really essentially an easy document to create. Um, it's the CV doesn't attend the interview for you, but it can stop you attending the interview. It doesn't do the job for you, but again, it can stop you having the opportunity to do that job. Um, it can it can ruin your chances of ever getting that interview to sit in front of somebody and show them that you are A, the best person for the job, B, you've got all the right skills, and C, you've got all the experience to do that job properly. So really please think about that when creating this CV. All that leaves me to do is to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. It's the first in our series, so any feedback you can give us is essential, really. Whether it's positive or negative, it doesn't matter. It all helps when creating our next video. And talking about our next video, part 2 in our learning series is the next step from when you've sent in your CV and you've watched our video, you've created that professional CV, you've sent it off, and either a recruitment agency or a hiring manager would love to see you. It's all about preparing for that interview. If you're not sure, if you've never been to an interview, watch our next video. We'll help you out. We'd love to connect with you. We're on lots of social media. Twitter at Enhanced AR. We'd love for you to follow us on there. You can check us out on our own website, which is www.enhanced-auto-recruitment.co.uk. And then also on Facebook, we've got a Facebook page set up on there, which we try and keep updated with lots of information. We have a special car of the week series going on. So yeah, it'd be great if you can find us on there on Enhanced AR and like our page. And last but not least, also on LinkedIn. If you go onto LinkedIn and either look for Enhanced Auto Recruitment or search for me, Cole Swain, you'll be able to find me on there, and I'd love to connect with you on there. Also, if you just type in motor trade jobs, you should find us right at the top of the search page on there, which just makes it a little bit easier if you're trying to find us. So, as I say, thanks very much, and goodbye, and we'll speak to you on the next video. Thank you.